You'll find them on the backs of milk cartons. Loved ones weep over them at local police stations as they file missing person reports. They used to be everywhere, but now you hardly hear anything from them at all. I'm speaking, of course, about House Democrats. You remember them? I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta, and here to answer that question and more, Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. All right, Bill, the House used to have 257 Democrats just less than 2 years ago. Now they're down to 191, and of those 191, 1/3 have refused to pay the dues they owe to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. That's the committee in charge of getting more Democrats elected to Congress. Why aren't they paying up, Bill?
Oh, they're not paying their union dues because the union dues are not mandatory and being taken out of their paychecks in advance the way that other union dues for public sector employees are often taken in advance, which is why they can claim their membership is so in love with the union that everybody pays dues and they just love doing it. Once it becomes voluntary, membership in these kind of things goes down just a tad, just like the number of Democrats in the House as a general total of the House population. They're not paying their dues because, look, I can make all kinds of jokes about deadbeats, but we all know the answer to this, right? You pay for the things that you like and value, and the things that you don't like and value, you put off and you don't pay. That's why if you have a choice between paying your electric bill and your cable bill, you pay your electric bill first, because if you pay your cable bill and you haven't paid your electric bill, it's not really a wise move if you're in tight times. I don't think it's a question of these Congress critters not being able to afford to pay their union dues, or their Democratic Party membership dues. I think it is a pretty telling. Reflection on the Democratic brand, which as short a time ago as only 4 years ago in 2008, we were told was going to be the dominant party for the next 40 years, going to have the House, the Senate, and the presidency for 2 generations before Republicans could ever rear their heads in public again. It turns out they were wrong by a factor of everything.
That's math, folks. You can't argue with math. All right, Scott, it gets worse for the donks. Another 109 House members have only ponied up a fraction of what they owe to the DCCC. And if you add it all up, you get maybe a dozen Democrats are in good standing with their own victory committee. What do they know that maybe we don't know?
Well, there's an interesting phenomenon in the political world in which my little toe has been dipped now for a couple of years. Most politicians, when they're giving money to other politicians, are actually giving other people's money. So it's not they're not giving their own money to the other politicians. They're taking money from their campaign account and transferring it to another campaign account. Okay, this is my term for it, not theirs. This is called paying tribute to power. So you only pay tribute to power if you think that that power is going to be there in the future and you're going to have to rely upon it. If you don't think that power is going to be there in the future, then you make a token contribution so as not to offend anybody, but you don't pay the full tribute that you're supposed to because it won't matter because those people are on their way down. And by the way, Nancy Pelosi, I think, is a very wise woman, and she is trying to protect her Democrats. It's an endangered species, and you must maintain a breeding population.
What he said.
Now, we're going to get to that in just a minute. Yeah, Bill?
No, I just said what he said. What he said, yeah.
Yes. It was for power, you need a carrot or a stick, and I don't want to think about Nancy Pelosi with either one. All right, Bill. The DCCC has threatened that if House Dems don't pay up, they won't get discounted rooms and all the good food at the Democratic National Convention next month. But, speaking of Nancy Pelosi, she's telling them something else. Watch this clip.
I wouldn't say that they're boycotting the convention. I'm not encouraging anyone to go to the convention, having nothing to do with anything except I think they should stay home, campaign in their districts, but I'm not encouraging members to go to the convention no matter what the situation was, because they can be home. It's campaign time. It's the first week in September.
Can you believe that? Pelosi doesn't even want her own members to go to Charlotte so they can stay home and campaign. And we're talking about Democrats in really Democratic districts. Is this a party that's gone so deep into the well that they're suffering from schizophrenia?
All is proceeding as I have foreseen. This is a sign that these guys are going to have their butts handed to them. Their butts handed to them in 2012. Of course she wants them staying home campaigning while they should be there rolling in the aisles enjoying a victory lap of the most awesome president ever. They can't get these guys to part with their own money for their own organization in order to succeed in the future. And then the leader of this sad and sorry group, which originally consisted of some fairly decent people before lunatics like Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and Obama took over the party, are saying, no, don't come to the big victory convention. For God's sakes, please stay out there among the people and try to scrape up enough votes so that we can have the illusion of a race come the fall. I think we're going to whip these Marxists out of their boots. I've been saying it for 3 years now, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, fingers crossed. Scott, I want you to make a gut call here. The Republicans picked up a lot of seats in 2010, almost a record number. And usually after that kind of a gain, you lose a few seats in the next election because of some marginal districts. So do you think the GOP is going to lose some of those in November, or will they beat history and gain even more in this election?
No, they'll gain even more in this election. They'll lose some seats, obviously, in places where they had weak candidates or where the Democrats managed to mount a strong candidate. But in general, I think we're going to pick up some more seats. We, speaking for the Republican Party myself, I am the official national spokesman, we're going to pick up more seats because more and more people are understanding that it's not enough just to elect one house of a bicameral legislature. You've got to get the Senate and you've got to get the White House. And when they're able to do that, then I think there's a fair trial of the Republican principles. The Republicans have an extraordinary opportunity at that point, as they do, by the way, in Pennsylvania, where they have the governorship and both houses of the legislature. They better act, and they better act quickly when they get that, because this is, once those stars align, if you blow it, it's going to be 2 decades before you can get it back.
Yeah, especially since they had it from 2002 to 2006, and the GOP really blew that one. All right, you know, folks, we might just see something very unusual happen in November. Now, a winning presidential candidate usually has coattails and brings along some members of his party into the House and into the Senate. But this year, there's a different feeling. As the Tea Party continues its grassroots effort to reform and to remake the GOP from the bottom up, voter enthusiasm for Tea Party House candidates might just help drag Mitt Romney into the Oval Office on their coattails. And you know what? We can make that happen and keep the Democrats MIA for a long time to come. So let's get to work. For BJTV, I'm Steve Green.